Hello, everyone. Welcome into this next edition of Odoo's Webinars 2021. I'm excited to have you guys with us. My name is Matt. I am an account executive here in San Francisco, and my job is I get to work with a lot of customers that come our way. I get to learn more about their businesses, hopefully someday, maybe some of your businesses, and put together solutions using Odoo. So I am, of course, extremely excited to be speaking with you today about Odoo for wholesalers and distributors. We're going to dive into this pretty quickly here. And as we go today, we're going to follow really this kind of meteoric narrative of this massive rise of a anonymous paper company that grew out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and believe it or not, utilized Odoo for all of that growth as well. As we go through this story today, we're hopefully also going to get to see the different ways that you can utilize Odoo for your own wholesale and distribution organization. So as we get going, again, we're thrilled that you are here with us and would love to engage with you however we can in this online platform. So definitely throw comments, any questions, maybe any general life advice that you have for me or for the rest of us here into the chat. We will do our best to answer those questions and engage with them. I don't know if we'll get to the life advice, but hopefully we'll get to the questions at the very least towards our end of our time today. So that said, let's go ahead and dive right into this. Like I said, we're going to be moving pretty quick today, but let me give you a overview of where we're going to be going. So first of all, we're going to ask the question, why Odoo? Why Odoo in general, but also why Odoo for your wholesale or distribution organization? Secondly, we're going to dive into some of the functionality and take a look at some distribution basics. We'll do some setup. We'll do a nice little demo where we'll step into that anonymous paper company and see a little story unfolding there. From there, we're going to dive into some of the reporting that's simplified in Odoo. We're going to see how powerful and pervasive reporting is within Odoo, and we'll play with it a little bit as we go. After that, we're going to go ahead and expand our horizons a little bit and start looking at the apps that we have for every single need for all the different teams that are in your organization. And really, we're going to try and blow the cap off of that horizon as well when we start talking about customizing Odoo towards the end of our time today. And then at the very end, we're going to go ahead and summarize everything, make sure we got to where we meant to go, and do some Q&A as well. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving along. And to make the point clear, it is not going to be a super heavy on the configuration side of things today. It's not meant to be a training. It's meant to be more of an expose so that you can see how Odoo might help you in the distribution and wholesale space. So let's go ahead and ask the question, why Odoo? Now, there's a couple reasons for this, and hopefully I will illustrate that today and we'll press into it and we'll actually see it live. But I do want to go ahead and answer it at the forefront as well. So first of all, why Odoo in general? Why use Odoo as any organization? Well, the three reasons that I see at the forefront are really the simplicity, the usability, and the flexibility of Odoo. And like I said, I really want to illustrate this for you guys today. However, I also think this is the best testimony to the simplicity, the usability, and the flexibility of Odoo is really the growth of our community over the course of time, but even today. We see that now today we've got more than 6 million users across the globe utilizing Odoo. We have a growing and a really strong, really second to none partner network of 2,700 plus companies working with us. We have a third-party built app store that's really illustrating how many organizations want to build on top of the foundation of Odoo that's now exceeding 28,000 different applications. And then on top of all of that, we have the ability to, we're expanding ourselves as well. So you can see here that we have offices spreading across the globe as well. We're constantly hiring, and that's all to support the growth of our customer base. And so I think that's really a powerful expression of how usable, how simple, how flexible Odoo is, that it's growing the way that it is. But more specifically for your organization in the wholesale or distribution space, why Odoo for that space? The reasons that I see is because it's powerful, scalable, and integrated as well. And really what I mean by this is in the wholesale and distribution space, obviously the crux of your operations is going to be inventory management, having that down pat, doing it well, doing it powerfully. And the reality is in this day and age, a really, really strong inventory solution isn't just going to do inventory well, but it's going to integrate really well with the rest of your operations, being your accounting, your CRM and sales, your procurement methodologies, whatever softwares you're using in those spaces. If your inventory system isn't integrating tightly with those, it's going to be missing a little bit. And I think this is where we have the unique value proposition that we do here at Odoo, that we not only have really a second to none inventory management solution that's incredibly powerful, but what really sets it apart is the way that it tightly and nicely integrates with the rest of our really robust ERP solution as well. All these different applications on the sales side, on the help desk side for customer support, on the accounting side for the financials, all of that is going to integrate tightly with our inventory solution and really set it apart. And so I think that's the unique value proposition that I would put forward as why you might want to use Odoo for your organization. And the reality is, as I've taken customers through our inventory solution, and as they've seen the strength of this solution, but also the connectivity into the rest of our solutions, I've really never yet come across a customer who doesn't get really excited and begin to understand that value proposition. And to me, they look a little something like this. I don't know if they're dancing, I don't know if they have stars in their eyes, but the excitement that I hear from the other side really reiterates to me the power of our solution for wholesalers and distributors. Now, that's a lot of talk, so I want to back it all up and I want to walk you guys through everything and kind of hopefully land in this same level of excitement by the end of our webinar today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start with the basics of distribution. So as we dive into this, we really are going to start simple. We're going to take a look at some simple product setups. We're going to do some reordering rules and configuring some min maxes. And then we're going to dive into a demo in real time that is going to take us through live sales, rolling through our inventory system, and then automation of procurement on the other end. And we're going to see really the tight-knit integration between Odoo's inventory solution, the sales and procurement side as well. When we dive into that demo, we're going to be stepping into this really exciting narrative of the anonymous paper company. You may or may not recognize that logo, but it is, of course, an anonymous paper company, not related to any others out there. And so as we get going into this, prior to that demo, let me go ahead and talk about some of the initial setup here. Now, we're going to talk about really the basics here, setting up a product. It's not meant to be super in-depth, but it's also a very important aspect within the distribution and wholesale space specifically, so I don't want to skip it. Okay, so here is a quick glimpse into Odoo's product form. Now, we're going to talk about a couple fields here. We're not going to get super nitty-gritty on the setup. We'll spend a couple minutes, but I do think it's important that we illustrate some of what is obviously essential in the space of managing inventory, but also very much easy to do within Odoo. So of course, you're going to be able to set up product categories to siphon out all your products into different verticals that you can take a look at. We'll see this come across a little bit more as we go. Of course, item numbers or SKUs going to be simple to do. Barcodes we can set up on any product. And those are going to be things that are, again, very basic, but so essential, especially as your volumes grow, to be able to look at different SKUs, by the SKU number to search through all your products that way, to barcode scan in and out. We're going to be able to set up the sales price and the costing as well. Now, these are static fields here, but as we go through today, we're actually going to see that this can be dynamically calculated for you. We can set up price lists on the sales side to adjust prices based on the customer level, and we can do some different forms of inventory automation or inventory valuation automation on the costing side. So that will be quite powerful as well. And then in the wholesale and distribution space, again, we're dealing with high volumes of product. And so that's going to mean we might be buying in different quantities than we actually sell in. And our units of measure are going to allow you to set all that up, buy in a particular unit, sell in a different unit, have Odoo automate the conversions and the drafting of different purchase orders in the proper unit. And that's going to be a nice feature that is really flexible to your needs as well. The other piece that we just need to set up here before we start seeing some of this live is our routes and our traceability for these products. So in the wholesale and distribution space, we're doing a lot of buying and selling. There may be some drop shipping, there may be some different methods of how we get product, but really the key is going to be buying and selling here. And so we're going to tell Odoo that we need to buy this product, and then we're going to be able to set up traceability however we like. And again, as those volumes are expanding in this particular industry, being able to track by lots, by serial numbers is a super key feature. Again, it's a basic, but I want to make sure that we illustrate and highlight it here. And we'll see how this goes as we move forward today too. Last little bit to set up. And again, this isn't meant to be the configuration moment, so I am talking about some of it. If you guys aren't quite tracking with the speed we're going through it, we can always dive into a little bit more in-depth offline on the configurations. What we're seeing here is the ability to set up vendors or one vendor or multiple vendors for a particular product that we might procure from. We can set up quantity breaks as well, which is going to be something that we're going to experience a lot in this space, where if we buy a higher quantity, we're going to get a price break. You can also set up lead times, vendor product information if you want that to be set up on automated purchase orders that are going out. That can be helpful as well. And the last little piece here of configuration is just setting up our reordering rules. So this is one of the ways that we can, within Odoo, help to maintain inventory levels at the amount that we need. We can set up a minimum or a max, and Odoo will read that and then automate accordingly. And we're actually going to go see all of this live now. So let me actually get out of this page and we're going to go hop into a dummy database here. So what we're hopping into here is Odoo itself, and we're going to put on the narrative now of being the anonymous paper company, again, based in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And what we're doing here is we're going to actually begin to see some of the automation that Odoo is going to offer in real time. And what I hope to illustrate here is that you're going to have the ability to have your sales and your inventory and your procurement tightly tied together in such a way that you're able to automate the maintenance and the movement of inventory flows, but also in such a way that you still maintain autonomy to make decisions as we go. So we could, of course, hop into the inventory solution itself, take a look at all of our products, and we can see it nicely divided here by the different product categories. But if we wanted to get a quick overview of all of the different items that we have and the quantities that we have on hand, we could drill down here and see quantities on hand and our forecasted quantity quick and easily. Now we're going to actually see these quantities being updated in live time as we go today. We're going to see the quantities on hand updating in live time and the forecasted quantity. And how we're going to do that, we're going to walk through a little flow here. So I'm going to hop into our sales application. And at this point, I'm going to be operating as Dwight's Anonymous, one of the salespeople here at the Anonymous Paper Company. I'm going to go ahead and create a sales order here. And Dwight's going to be selling to one of his best customers. So we're going to actually sell to this Best Beat Farms. And this is a company that Dwight does a lot of business with. And so he knows exactly what they need. He's going to go ahead and come in here and look for the yellow legal pads. We can search that by the item number, by the product name, however we need to. He's going to go ahead and throw that on this quote here. And then they also need some of the paper. So we're going to search that as well by the SKU number here. So we can add these in. And you're going to notice there's this little green graph right here that we can actually see. We can actually click in from here and see the stock quantities that we have on hand immediately. And this is where it's a subtle little thing, but it's going to be really powerful if your sales team doesn't have to navigate out of their software into another software to see inventory levels. If they don't have to contact someone on the ops or the warehousing team in order to understand it, they can quickly look in, see what's available. And Dwight knows that there's a lot needed here. And he also happens to know that there are other salespeople on the team who are going to be making some big sales later today. So he wants to get this one in early and get this stock reserved for himself. So he's going to sell a good amount of both the yellow legal pads and the printer paper here. So from here, we've got a quote developed that Dwight could go ahead and send directly out to his customer from here by email. He could also, in that email, send a link where the customer could come in and sign and pay online. And so this is going to be a feature that Dwight might do with some of his more advanced clients. Some of them might not prefer this online feature. They might prefer a physical invoice instead. The Best Beat Farms is actually one of those organizations that just prefers physical paper. So we're just going to go ahead and confirm this. And from there, we'd be able to go ahead and print the sales order once it comes through. So we'll go ahead and confirm this here. And like I said, we could easily come here, print the order, and then get that either mailed or sent to our customer as well. But what we're going to see is the moment that the sales order is confirmed, we're actually having a delivery order automatically created here in Odoo. And what we're seeing immediately is the connection between the sales application within Odoo and the inventory application. That's going to help us have a stock picking automatically generated here, help our teams be seamlessly integrated. At the same time, I can take a look at this forecast report, and Dwight can actually see at this point that we've automatically reserved this quantity from the sales order, as well as the same quantity that we set up for the printer paper itself. But we can see a little bit more too. If we click in and view this full forecast on the product, we're going to see a lot going on here that I want to walk through just briefly with you guys. So we're going to see that we have 300 units currently on hand, which we had before. We saw that when we clicked into the forecast, but we can see a breakdown of what's going on with these units. We can actually see that 290 of these units have already been reserved for this sales order number 24, and that there's 10 remaining in our free stock at this point. And so Odoo has automatically reserved those units the moment that sale came across, which is going to be a really nice quick integration. It's going to keep your inventory live and active in real time for you. But also, we're going to see up here that we've got those 10 forecasted because we are deprecating the inventory for what's going out. But we still have 300 forecasted and pending. And what this is illustrating is that Odoo actually automated the drafting of a purchase order here, which we can see right here for 290 units to get us back to that forecasted plus pending amount of 300 units. And that's where the reordering rules are kicking in. We told Odoo that we want 300 of these units at all times. So when we fall via a sale or some other way of moving inventory out, Odoo is going to automate the process of getting us more units. And we can see all of this connection if I hop back home for a moment. we're moving from the sales app. I'm going to jump briefly into our inventory application. And we can see just briefly here that we've got a delivery order. This was automatically created by that sales order. And we're going to click in and process this in a moment, so we'll come back to it. We can also see in our purchasing application that we've got these two purchase orders that have been drafted here to two different suppliers. And I could click in and see what's going on here. So for our yellow legal pads, which Dwight just sold, we've got a quantity here of 29 boxes of the legal pads. And what I want to highlight here is the capacity for Odoo to automatically convert the need that we have in units into these boxes that we buy in, because we set up the units of measure accordingly. So Odoo will automatically draft our POs in the units that we buy them in. When we receive it in, it'll be transitioned into the units that we actually sell and move inventory in. And that's going to be a really helpful feature to just keep things moving smoothly, especially as you're dealing with incoming shipments in great volumes. And I'm going to see also in this other purchase order to Paper People's preferred provider, a very tough word to say. We've also got it set up using our conversion of units. We've got 19 boxes of printer paper that we've ordered. Now, similarly to the sales order itself, from a purchase order, our procurement team would be able to go ahead and send an email directly to customers, our vendors right from here, go back and forth and discuss the different price that they want to go on this particular item, which we could do in a moment, but I'm actually going to hop home, because the reality is in this space at our anonymous paper company, and then I think within the distribution and wholesale space as a whole, we're having a lot of orders come in on a daily basis. And so let's see how Odoo behaves the moment that another sales order comes in. So we're going to go ahead and create one more order. And this time we're selling to Pizza Inn. And this is actually Andy's order. Andy's coming in. This is the one that Dwight was aware of. He wanted to get that inventory secured first. So Andy's going to come in here and he needs to sell the same products. So he's got the yellow legal pads and he's got the paper as well. So he's going to add these onto the sales order that's coming through. And he needs to sell a good quantity as well. He's going to sell 150 units of each. And the moment that he goes and throws in the units that he needs, he's going to recognize that this graph went from green to red. And this is just another nice little subtle tie-in between the inventory and sales app that's going to help our sales team see, we don't actually have the values that we need. He can click into the forecast and see he's got 10 forecasted and only 10 units available, even though he's trying to sell the 150. Now, it's not going to stop our salespeople from making those sales. They can, of course, continue to sell. We're going to continue to replenish on the other side, but it will help them in setting proper expectations for our customers, which is going to be really key in navigating all the sales that are coming in and making sure our customers are happy. If Andy wanted to, he could even come in here and specify the delivery date and maybe push it back a little bit to make sure the customer is aware and is in writing that there's going to be a little bit of delay because we're low on the inventory values. So we're going to go ahead and confirm this order just like we did with Dwight's. We'll see again that a delivery order will automatically be created right here. And that'll be the stock picking that's tied into this. And then what I want to do is I want to hop back into this forecasted report to see again the real-time updates that Odoo is doing on the inventory side of things. So let me go ahead and click into this forecast. And it's going to be a little bit different this time. So we still have the 300 units on hand because we haven't sent anything out from either Dwight's order or Andy's. When we look down at our stock, we can see that we still have those 290 reserved for Dwight's sales order 24. And we have 10 more units reserved, the remaining 10, for Andy's sales order number 25. And then we have 140 units, which currently we do not have, that are reserved to fill out the rest of this order. Now, that's where we stand currently, but if we look at, so our forecasted has fallen since last time, but if we look at our forecasted plus pending, it's still at that 300 units. And what's happening here is as we create more and more sales on a daily basis, Odoo is going to continue to automate the drafting and the adjustments of purchase orders to make sure that we get what we need. And so it's been updated here to reflect the increased need that we have because Andy just sold 150. And the way that this will look, if we look at the back end here, let's go hop into our purchasing app again. We're going to see that there's still only 2 purchase orders drafted. But when I hop into the purchase order, we're going to actually see that the quantities have gone up on these boxes of legal pads. And the same will be true on the paper as well. And what Odoo is doing is it's aggregating everything that is coming from a particular vendor onto one purchase order for you. That way you're not sending out multiple requests for quotation or POs to your vendors. They're not getting flooded with communication. You're just going to have it all aggregate here, whether it be more units of the same product or new products that are also bought from the same vendor. They're going to all aggregate onto one PO here that then when we're ready, we can go ahead and send out. And again, we could send this by email. For the sake of time today, I'm just going to confirm this. pretending that we've gone back and forth with our vendor and we've realized the pricing and everything is proper. We've got the receipt automatically being created again. So our stock picking and our stock receipts are being automatically generated from the sales and purchase applications. And then I can hop back and we'll get this other purchase order confirmed as well. And this is where I want to point out that we were talking about at the beginning that what I want to illustrate is the ability for Odoo to automate your processes and be very helpful there, but also to leave you the autonomy so that you're not actually stuck in that automation. And so these are just draft purchase orders that have been created by Odoo. Nothing's actually been set in stone. Nothing's been sent out. And so we still have the freedom and the autonomy to click in here and say, I think we're going to need more of this printer paper. It's been a pretty hot commodity. I'm going to go ahead and increase the quantity that we're going to pick up here. And so we have that freedom to increase quantities, to add other products. Again, it's automating the process to maintain our inventory levels, but it's leaving the autonomy in your hands to operate your business the way that serves you best. So we can make that adjustment and go ahead and confirm this as well. And again, we'll see this receipt automatically coming in. So now let's go. We've kind of talked about the sales side of things. We've talked about the procurement side of things. Let's take a look at the inventory side of things. The 2 delivery orders have been automatically created by our sales orders. We've got the 2 receipts automatically created by the POs. So I can come in here and I can begin to process these. And so let's go ahead and start with the receipt number 32. We can see it's linked to that purchase order 28 we just cut. And we can see here that Odoo again is making that conversion on the units of measure. We bought a certain number of boxes, but it's being converted into the 10 count packs that we sell it in. So Odoo will quickly and easily make those conversions for you. And then also a very key piece of the wholesale and distribution space is going to be that tracking of inventory. And so we've actually set these up at the Anonymous Paper Company. We track by lot and serial number. So I can come in here and I can specify if we've got multiple different lots or serial numbers for this particular item, we can set that up. If we've just got the one and all these units are under that one, we can go ahead and bring them in as well. So however that's going to function. And then we can go ahead and assign that lot or serial number and then bring this inventory in. Now, everything I'm doing with the validate buttons as we're moving products in, as we're sending products out, of course, is going to be facilitated by barcodes as well. Every single stock movement, receipts, delivery orders, internal transfers is going to have an associated picking operation. Easy enough for us to go ahead and open up here and see that there's going to be a barcode set up with the operation itself. It's going to pull the product barcodes as well. So every time I hit validate, hopefully what you guys can see is that you could be scanning this in, you could be scanning this out nice and easily. It would not necessarily have to be something where you're coming in and manually hitting validate. One last thing before we move on to sending some stuff out, I also want to illustrate the capacity that we have here to deal with shipments that are at less than the amount that we're expecting. So let's pretend for a moment that this people's preferred provider, that is difficult to say, I should have gone with a different name, is sending us the printer paper and we get 1 box less than expected. So we can easily come in here and specify that that's the case. And we'll just say that we got the 3 boxes, so we have the 300 units, but we didn't get the 4th box. We're gonna go ahead and confirm that. We can again bring this into our inventory, and Odoo is gonna allow you to automatically create a back order for this. So if we're expecting to receive the rest of that shipment, we can go ahead and create this back order. And what will happen is Odoo is gonna automatically receive this inventory in, our on-hand units will go up, but there's still gonna be a remaining receipt that we can actually see is the back order of the last one that we brought in. And it's going to automatically be for the amount that we have remaining. So it's going to allow us to track our inventory even when we don't receive it all in one or send it out all in one. Now, last little thing I want to talk about is the delivery orders on the way out. So just like the receipts, we're going to have all of this pulling automatically. Let's go ahead and take a look at delivery order number 24 here from Dwight's sales order number 24. Couple pieces to hit on here. One is the lot and serial number. Odoo is going to be automatically pulling from your inventory levels in a first in, first out methodology. You can set that up in the back end, but you'll see that it's going to deprecate all of the products in a particular lot or serial number that came in. And then if and when it runs out there, you're going to have another lot or serial number pulled from here that's going to fill the rest. And so we can see that full traceability on our printer paper. When we go ahead and validate this or scan it, if we're using the codes to send it out, we're going to see that we'll also have traceability on all of that. And of course, as we're sending items out here, if you'd like to integrate any common carriers within Odoo, that's going to be something that you can definitely do as well. You could have, when that validation takes place, you could have tracking information, packing slips coming up automatically. And then once we've actually sent this out, we're going to have the traceability to then come in and see the history of where these lot and serial numbers landed and also where they came from. And we could drill in here and see this particular lot of product came from this particular shipment. And we can track that back to see where it came in, who brought it in, the vendor it's from. So if we have any sort of issues on the after sales side of things, we're going to have that traceability available for us. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here for just a moment. And we're going to come into the screen one more time. And I want to do a quick recap of what we've just seen there. So I know we're moving quick and we're covering a lot of functionality, but what we saw the ability for Odoo to really seamlessly connect between your sales and your procurement and your inventory solutions. So your teams will be able to speak to one another really well, really quickly, really seamlessly. We also saw real-time tracking and reporting on your inventory levels. As that sales order was made, you're immediately pulling from and reserving from existing levels and then automating the process of ordering more stock to keep your stock stocked. And of course, we saw the ability for all this to be automated, but for you to still maintain autonomy so that your workflows can be eased up, but you never lose control of them as we go. Okay, so taking a step beyond the inventory basics. When our autonomous paper company actually had some videographers come in, filmed a documentary that aired, and the company has since become incredibly famous. As they became famous, of course, the companies that wanted to work with them increased exponentially, and then of course their volumes increased exponentially. So as they experienced growth, there were a lot of features within Odoo they were able to utilize to help them grow and expand. And I want to illustrate some of these because I think they could be really helpful for the rest of the wholesaler and distributor organizations that'll come and tune in and watch this webinar. So we're going to talk about a couple different features here. We're going to talk about items such as variants, palletizing, serialization, dynamic costing as well. And I'm going to run through this pretty briefly. Again, we're not going to talk too in depth on the details or configuration. If there's questions on any of these things, throw it in the chat, hit me up, hit somebody on our team up. We'd love to talk further about it. But let me illustrate just some of the functionality that's going to be there to help you guys scale your operations. So of course, product variance is going to be a huge deal when it comes to expanding the volumes in the wholesale and distribution space. And Odoo is going to offer a really quick and easy way to set these up. You can set up the different attributes that are associated with products, the different values associated with those attributes, and then configure those. And Odoo will actually automatically configure variants for you, which is going to be a really nice feature. But it's going to go beyond that as well, because when it comes to variants, one of the most complicated pieces can then be making sure you distinguish all of those different variants when you're making stock movements. And we've, of course, thought about that. So every single variant, this one being a red dessert size party plate, is going to be able to have its own SKU and barcode as well. And so when we have orders coming in for particular types of a particular product, we're going to be able to move those around using a unique barcode that will make sure that we're moving the proper variant of a product. Replenishment is also going to be a really massive piece of scaling your operations. And in the demo that we just walked through, we saw really only one of the methodologies that is available within Odoo. We, of course, have the ability to manage just-in-time or RPO type of inventory movements, meaning that when you actually sell an item, you want to go and buy it just then. You can easily set that up as one of the routes, on the product form. And new in version 14, we're also going to have a really powerful replenishment report. What this will do is it's going to offer a different way for you to manage inventory. Instead of necessarily automating that with the reordering rule, the flow of getting more inventory, this report's going to instead illustrate for you and bring into one area all of the items that are falling below a certain level that we need to maintain. And then from there, we can actually go and manually order once or create automated orders, which is going to be a helpful tool as well. And this is a really powerful tool that you can use for perhaps those items in your inventory that don't turn over as much, that don't sell as frequently. We might not want to automate it because we really don't want to have too much of an inventory of it. It just takes up space. But we certainly want to be alerted when we're falling below what we need to have at the bare minimum. And this report can help you and allow you to do that as well. Now, when it comes to reordering, what's going to happen as volumes increase, and we experience this at the anonymous paper company as well, is we have larger shipments coming in, and those items that we serialize, for instance, for us, we serialize all those party plates. Not a great idea. There's a lot of them. It's going to be difficult to actually come in and serialize all of those. And so there's a tool within Odoo to help in that space as well. We've actually set it up so that if you are fortunate enough, if you live in the blessed life where you get a grouping of products with ascending serial numbers, you can specify the first one, specify how many you've got, and automatically assign those serial numbers here, and Odoo will take care of that for you. Now, in the less blessed realm of existence, where we get 100 products that have varying serial numbers. You can also use an import functionality to make this easier so that we can help you stay sane as you continue to scale in your operations. Speaking of scaling, one of the difficult things in the scaling process in this space is going to be managing the valuation of your inventory. And so there's going to be some different ways that you can set that up in Odoo, and it'll really depend on what is most functional and helpful for you. Perhaps on the smaller side of things, when we first get going, we want something very simple, very easy to do. We could do a simple standard price where we input the price of a product. Odoo will hold whatever inventory comes in at that particular price and give us that inventory valuation. As we scale, as we need more granularity and automation in the process of managing inventory valuations, we're going to have some other features. The highest and the most granular being first in and first out costing automation, which will actually hold all of your inventory at the price it comes in on that was specified on the purchase order that you cut out to your vendor. And so that'll be a really automated, really helpful tool as we grow larger to then be able to see an accurate valuation of our inventory. As we are growing in the size of our inventory and needing to manage those valuations and having more orders coming in, we're also going to want to be able to streamline the way that we do our pickings. And this is something that, again, is going to come native in Odoo with our batches functionality. You're going to be able to see here that when we have batches, we can actually come in and look at any sort of inventory movement, be it a delivery, an internal movement, whatever it might be. We can specify the ones that we want to grab, add it to an existing batch transfer, create a new one, and that batch transfer will then have its own picking slip. It'll have its own barcode that we can then move all of those movements in one. And so we can also use our filter and group by ability, which we'll play with in a little bit, to maybe filter and say we want all these movements that are going to this particular location in our inventory, batch those up, and really streamline the process as we move forward. Similar to these batch pickings is the ability to palletize all of our products. Now, this is going to be pretty much par for the course in any larger inventory management type of organization. And so the ability to move products in bulk, but also to still see with some granularity where those products are, is going to be a really powerful feature that, again, is going to be native within Odoo. You're going to be able to specify what products you want to put into a pack. You can set these packs up to be some particular pallets. When we add these products in, again, it can be done internally while we're just moving them around on pallets. It could be that we want to put them on pallets right before shipping out. However that works, you're going to be able to use Odoo to put these in a pack, and in that pack, we're going to be able to see the full list of the contents that are in a particular pallet. So we're going to be able to move these pallets around, and all these products will move with them, but we'll never lose the visibility of all these products being there. We're also then going to be able to print a package barcode and a whole list of the contents as well. And so again, we can barcode a pallet. We can then move with our barcode scanner that pallet around in our inventory, out of our inventory if we need to another warehouse perhaps, and all of this content will go with it, but we'll never lose that visibility on it as well. Speaking of other warehouses, the last feature that has been really helpful for the anonymous paper company that I want to share with you is this ability to manage multiple different warehouses. The bigger an organization gets, if we're acquiring different organizations that are going to have different warehouses as well, we might have multiple different warehouses that we're sending product from. We can quickly and easily add these in Odoo. It really takes one click and you give a title to it and you've got a new warehouse. Whoops, let's go back. When on our warehouse level, we can actually specify how we want to receive incoming and outgoing movements. If we want it to be 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, so we can have that process if we need to do a quality check on bringing them in. If we want to do a pick, pack, and ship type of movement out, we can configure that. But we can also specify how we're actually going to resupply our warehouses. And any of our additional warehouses that we might want to resupply from one main hub, we can easily set up here and make sure that all of our flows, when we need more inventory from San Francisco or for this warehouse too, we can actually resupply from San Francisco directly, which is going to be great for helping us manage our inventory as we scale as well. Okay, we've covered a lot so far, and we're about halfway through. So let me recap just a little bit. We talked about the basics of inventory management using our sales application, our inventory application, and our purchase application to manage inventory levels automatically, to see real-time reporting on our inventory, to automate the process of procurement. From there, we dove into a couple different features that are going to be helpful as we scale in the distribution space. And one of the next things that I want to touch on is going to be how important simple and easy reporting is for any sort of distribution or wholesale operation. We're dealing in, and this has been a theme through this whole webinar, volumes. Volumes of sales orders, volumes of purchase orders, volumes of inventory movements. Within those volumes, it's going to be really helpful to have clean, concise, powerful reporting. And I want to illustrate some of this with another demo here in a second. Within Odoo, we're going to have the ability to, within any app, go to a reporting menu item and find dynamic reports there. However, we're also going to have the ability to find pretty much reports anywhere in Odoo using the filter, group by, and favorites functionality that we'll play with here in a moment. So rather than just showing you some of these, let me go ahead and hop back into our anonymous paper company, and let's play with some of these reports. So let's start at the inventory level. After all, we're talking about wholesale here and distribution. We're dealing with large levels of inventory. We can go to our classical reporting page and immediately pull up different reports that are available here. We're going to take a look at the warehousing analysis. We're going to see a lot here. If we had some more data, we would be able to go ahead and see some of the different visuals on a nice little graph here. Instead, we're going to be able to see a little summary here that will be helpful, some of this information. We can see our delivery delays. So if we've got any delay in our deliveries, we'll be able to be alerted of that, receipts as well. And then we can see our inventory valuation as it stands. So some helpful summaries here that'll be really powerful for us to, on quick glance, be able to access. But let's get a little bit more specific. Let's say that we want to, at this anonymous paper company, get a projection of what we're expecting to actually sell in this next quarter. And we want to do it with some historical data. We're going to actually be able to use a pivot report here, and we're going to expand this so we can see it in full. And we're going to be able to use the filter, group by, and some of the different functionalities here to build a report pretty quick and easy. So I've got it filtered right now by transfer date and done transfers. I want to just see only the receipts, actually only the deliveries, only the items that are going out. And then I'd like to see it based on the transfer date, and we're going to do it by, we'll do quarter. So I want to see some historical data on the quarter. And then I also want to see from here, let's go ahead and see that I want to see the product category and drill into that and do the products as well. And so we can now expand and fold out. We can see all the different products by quarter. We want to go ahead and compare it too. If we can compare it over the previous year, we're going to be able to see that not only what's happening in this first quarter, but also the variation from the previous. And then we're going to change our measures. We don't really care about cycle or delay. What we want to see is the full quantity of products that have been going out. And now we've got this really powerful report. We can see that for March of 2021, hopefully we're doing this in 2022. We'd need some obviously historical data here. We can see all the different orders that have gone, all the different products that have gone out based on the category and the specific product. And we can see the variation over the year previous. What this will allow us to do, we have an idea of what our volume was last year. We also have an idea of what our growth in volume was from the year previously. And that'll give us a really good gauge on what we expect to have coming in terms of orders in this quarter of this year. And then we can use this to help our management of inventory. If we feel we need to go pick up any items that have a long lead time, we can go and make that order either towards the end of the year 2021, so we're ready for 2022, or whenever we need to go and do that. So this is a really powerful report that was found within our reporting application itself. But again, like I said, you can do reporting anywhere pretty powerfully and dynamically in Odoo. So let's just hop back to our main inventory page here. And let's say that we just wanted to see all of our transfers. So this is just a list of all the transfers, all the stock pickings, movements coming in, movements going out in our warehouse. And we can build a report from here pretty quick and easy. We might be the warehouse manager who needs to see everything that's going on, wants to see all the different operations that are happening, and wants to quickly be able to see how many receipts do we have coming in, how many internal transfers, if we have those set up, are we dealing with, what kind of delivery orders are coming in. And of course, we could further filter this. We could see only those that are waiting or ready that need to be executed. We could, clear out all the ones that are done and just see those that are ready and waiting. We could build a filter to specify what orders we want to see. And as we build that out, we can then go ahead and also save this. If this is a view that's helpful for us, we can save any of these reports either as a one-click button here. You can see set it up by transfers by type, whatever it might be. It could be your default view. You could share that with other users, or we can add it to a dashboard app, which is going to house multiple different reports from multiple different applications. And what we're going to see as we dive into this a little bit further is that we can have both meaningful reports on the team level, but also important visibility on the higher level executive level. Like I said, these reports are going to be something you can build out everywhere within Odoo. So let's illustrate that really quickly by hopping into our sales application. And let's put on the hat of being Dwight's again. And let's pretend that Dwight actually has some user access rights to see every sales order that comes in. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that for your sales team, but in this particular instance, Dwight has the ability to see this. And so he can come in, look at all the orders in here, and he just wants to see how he's doing against his buddy, Andy. So you can group this by salesperson and quickly see the values that he's got versus what Andy's got. So he can feel good about himself. He can feel like, okay, I've done my job. But he can also dive deeper if he wants. He could flip that into a pivot report as well, and then dive even further into this if he wanted to specify by a particular quarter. He wants to see how he's doing. Maybe he's going to do it by Q1. And then maybe he wants to see even more in depth the different categories of products, how he's doing on those products. So he can drill into this report and again create another powerful report that if this is helpful for him, he could again go ahead and save, add to his dashboard if he wants. One last thing on the reporting side of things. We've mentioned this dashboard app a couple times. We're going to be able to hop in here, and anything that we save from any application within Odoo can be housed directly here for us. And so we've got these powerful reports that can be set up on the team level that can help us go about our day-to-day. But we can also save them into a dashboard, and as an executive, I might want to see the summary of all stock movements, understand what's happening on the warehousing side, but I also want to see what's happening on the sales side. And so I could house all my important reports here. They're going to be live, meaning that as orders come in, as receipts come in, this will be automatically updated. We're going to have the ability to click into a particular receipt right from here. So it's this dynamic report that's giving us an overview of everything that's happening, which for the executive side, the management side of the distribution and wholesale space is going to be a really nice feature for us to work with. Okay, let's hop back here and get back in here. So we're getting through this. We're covering a lot of ground. So let me summarize one more time. We've talked about the basics of distribution. We've talked about expanding that and some of the different functionality that's going to be helpful as we scale our operations. And we've talked about really the pervasive and powerful nature of reporting within Odoo. I want to, at this point, take us a little bit further. There's more to talk about, if you can believe it, and talk about some of the different applications that can be used within Odoo to help us and our other teams. And by the other teams, I mean specifically our sales, our procurement team, our customer support team, our finance and accounting team. Again, at the outset of this webinar, I mentioned that I think a really, truly powerful inventory management system is going to need to integrate powerfully with the rest of our solutions. And these are just some of the ways that Odoo's inventory system is going to integrate. We've seen this a little bit, so we won't spend too much time on the sales side. But like we mentioned before, in a sales order, our people can see the inventory levels without leaving. They're not going into other softwares. They're not having to ping somebody on the operations or warehousing side. They have an idea immediately, which is then going to help them set and manage delivery date expectations for customers, which means happier customers. And then the moment that a sales order is confirmed, we have a direct feed into our inventory team, delivery order automatically being created. Now we have this nice flow from the sales side into the warehousing management side. On the procurement side of things, we're going to have similar really powerful tools that we can use to help our teams. One is going to be this ability. We saw the automated drafting of purchase orders, but we also have the ability to do an automated call for tenders. What this will do, instead of just sending one PO to one supplier for the products you need, you'll actually be able to send an RFQ to many different suppliers to play the market, get the best pricing, make sure that your margins are staying high. And this can easily be set up on the product level, and then you can configure it with some purchase agreements and then manage it that way. So there's going to be flexibility in how you manage the automation of your procurement. And there's also going to be the ability to help in the space of variance. When it comes to ordering and scaling in our SKUs and scaling in the warehousing and distribution space, oftentimes we'll have a lot of different variants that are going to be a little bit more difficult to manage. And if we have to go in and find a bunch of SKUs, draft a purchase order, it can be kind of a headache. And of course, because we serialize these party plates at the anonymous paper company, it's really helpful to be able to come in, specify the exact quantity we need of a particular variant, and move from there. So it's going to be easy to do on the procurement side as well. In the finance and accounting space, of course, everything that we're doing operationally, sales, purchases, the corresponding invoices and vendor bills, are going to feed into our accounting application, the general ledger that's associated with it, and be added on there. So that's going to be a key feature of it and pretty native. But also there's going to be the ability for us to utilize what we call analytic accounts in Odoo. And what we can do here is we can actually click in and we can set up different accounts, and we can set up our product categories here and then record all the transactions that are coming in for particular categories and see our overall net profit for those different categories. So we can see our gross profit, our expenses, how we're doing in terms of a whole in that particular category, which can then help us with financial decisions moving forward if we want to stick with a particular product line, if we want to move away from it. And these analytic accounts are really flexible. You could set it up for a particular product, an entire product category. You could set it up for a particular vendor you're working with to see how you're doing with their products. It's going to be really helpful for you to make business decisions down the road. And then last but not least, our post-sales customer support. Our Helpdesk app is going to help with this. Hopefully you have really happy customers, so you're not getting a bunch of tickets, or if you are, they're just saying, hey, we love your product, this is great. It very well may be the case, though, that as you're dealing in volumes, that some of the products aren't sufficient, or you have to deal with frustrated customers. As that comes up, you're going to be able to utilize Odoo's Helpdesk to manage some of the after-sales processes. We can set up tickets that can be generated by a landing email. So you could have, we have help@anonymouspapercompany.com, where they can send an email and create a ticket in our help desk. There's also contact forms on the website you can set up that will all feed into this ticketing system. From the tickets, we can actually turn on the ability to refund or to create returns or coupons directly from a ticket. As these tickets come in, they're going to be able to be housed pertaining to a particular customer, so that we can then report on a customer level on how many tickets we have coming in. We can link it to a particular sales order, and then we can directly from here actually create the process of returns as well. And so if we have a return that we need to manage, as we've tied it to that sales order, we're going to see that the sales order is automatically pulled here. From there, we can pull the corresponding delivery order that it came from, which will pull the product, and then we can actually set up where we're going to return that product, and then we can automate the drafting of a receipt where we're expecting to receive it. And so we have the really tight tie-in between our post-sales and our inventory solution to, again, make sure we have as live and as real time a look at our inventory values as we possibly can. Okay. Last but not least, we've talked about the basics. We've talked about expanding as our volumes do. We've talked about dynamic reporting. We've talked about some of the different apps that can help our teams. At the end of the day, every company is going to have a different workflow. Every company is going to have a slightly different way of doing things, even in the same industry. So we are aware of that here at Odoo, and we wanted to make it possible to work with that. And so we've actually set up the ability for customization to be quite easy within Odoo. In fact, it's as easy as simple as 1, 2, and 3. Not quite. It's going to get a little bit more complex depending on how complex the configurations you might want to do are. But Studio is going to be a tool that is our in-house, out-of-the-box customization tool. You can edit Odoo with clicks, not code. .sh is going to be a platform that you can then access and write code in if you want to do more customization yourself. And of course, you could always work with Odoo directly or one of our partners if you have heavier development, heavier code to be written. For today, we're only going to touch briefly on Studio. And what I want to do is I want to actually illustrate this to you live. So I'm going to go ahead and from here, hop right back into our anonymous paper company organization database once again. And we're going to talk about what can be done here in Odoo. So oftentimes I've actually had customers ask this previously, where as you scale in operation size, you're obviously paying a lot for shipping. As you have products coming in, there's a heavy load and you're paying for a truckload. And often I've had a customer actually ask that we would like to be able to make sure that our purchase orders only go out in truckloads. And one of the ways we can do that is actually by pulling weight and volume into our purchase orders. So if I click in here to one of these purchase orders, I'm going to see that I can see the product that we're pulling, the quantity that we have. You may or may not recall, but on the product configuration page, there is a space for us to actually set up the weights for these particular products. And with Studio, we're going to be able to open up our database and customize anything and everything, again, with clicks, not code. And so what I can do, I can actually come into this purchase order line, edit it directly, and I can try and pull in that existing field. So because I've been around the block a couple times with Odoo, I know that this product has a weight field on it. And so I can actually come in, I could create any kind of new field I want, but we're going to use this thing called a related field, and we're going to throw that in here. And a related field is going to allow us to go into any other object in Odoo. So in this case, we're going to look at the product itself and pull some of the existing fields there. And so I can pull the weight field in for this particular product so that I can see the unit weight of a particular product. And we're going to go ahead and call this unit weight. And then maybe at the bottom, I want to see the sum of it. So this little aggregate field here, I can specify, all right, let's see the sum of this. Now, what we've got now is just the sum of unit weights. And so the next step in this process would be to add another field here. We can do just a basic decimal field. And when we create this field, what we can do, and I'm not going to go to the full length of doing this today because it does require something a little bit beyond my scope here. We're going to call this the total weight. And we could actually come in and set up that this would be a computed field. And so we would again set up here. We're going to go a little bit proof of concept here because I'm not going to get the whole thing underway here, but we'll go ahead and do a sum as well. And this total weight, we could actually set this field up to be calculated automatically as a multiplication of our quantity field and our weight, unit weight field. Now that we've got that unit weight pulled onto the purchase order line, we could have that automation or that calculation automatically performed here on the purchase order. And then of course we'd have a summary of our total weights here. Now we could do the same with the volume for every product. And then what we would have at the end of every purchase order, we'd be able to see the total weight, the total volume, which would help us make that decision of, do we want to cut this purchase order or not? Is that a full truckload? If it falls below that, it'd be easy enough for us to wait to not cut the purchase order. If it comes to a full truckload, then we can go ahead and make that purchase order and save, really make the most bang for our buck when it comes to the shipping process itself. Now, this is just one of the many ways you could customize Odoo using Studio. Hopefully it's something that is in line with something that you might need, you find yourself needing specifically. If there are more customization questions that you have, certainly a great way to do that is to throw a question in the chat, to contact us directly. That's really what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. So we won't cover too much more on the Studio side itself. So I'm going to go ahead and hop back here, and we're going to hop back into our presentation. We saw the customization. We didn't talk too much about SH or development. Again, if those are questions that you have moving forward, myself, anyone on our team here in San Francisco would be more than thrilled to speak with you. So definitely throw that in the chat, find a way to contact us, be happy to talk about it. Okay, we're wrapping our time here shortly, and so I want to quickly summarize what we've done. Of course, we've covered a ton of ground. Hopefully you stuck with me. Hopefully you enjoyed the little narrative as we went, and hopefully you saw something that would be helpful in your particular use case. What I want to do is I want to just wrap up here and talk about some of the ground that we covered. So what we did, we saw that you can really master your inventory using Odoo's inventory solution, the integration into the sales and purchasing application. We're going to see that there's real-time reporting on your inventory. There's automation of the procurement process to maintain your inventory levels, the ability to make sure that you're always on point when it comes to managing your inventory. We also took a look at how we can really equip your teams and your people using the dynamic, the powerful, and really pervasive reporting capability within Odoo. We talked about integrating your teams, using the different applications, the Helpdesk, accounting application, sales application, and giving your teams powerful tools that are tightly integrated with the inventory management solution that, of course, any growing and successful warehousing, distribution, wholesale organization is going to need. Finally, we talked about flexing your workflows as well. We talked about customizing Odoo and allowing you to set up workflows that are going to be pertinent to you. Again, if we need that ability to cut a PO only when it's a truckload, it's something we can build out with Studio, and there's a whole lot more we can go into there. Again, hopefully we'll have some time to chat about it. And last but not least, hopefully what we saw in this, hopefully what I was able to illustrate, hopefully what came across is the capacity that you might have to grow your organization utilizing Odoo. Okay, like I said, we have covered a lot of ground today. So if there are any remaining questions, certainly please contact us or myself. You can see my contact information here on the screen. Feel free to reach out via email. Feel free to schedule a meeting at that link there. And if there's anything else that you need, we would love to hear from you. Again, that is exactly what we're here for. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and turn into a little bit of a Q&A time. So I'm going to hang on and see if anyone from my team has curated some questions for me to answer, and look forward to hopefully answering some of those and speaking to some of y'all who joined sometime soon. So I've got a question coming here from Christine. And the question is whether that customer portal that we saw is an Odoo module or an add-on. And it's actually going to be something that's very native within Odoo. So what Christine's asking is the sales customer portal that we saw here when Dwight or Andy was making that sale. to their customer, the ability for that customer to see in a customer portal, the ability to sign and pay there for an order, see a history of their orders. All of that is going to be native standard functionality that comes with Odoo's sales application, not an add-on, just something that you're free to use if you'd like it and free to not if it's not something that your customers would utilize well. Another question is coming through regarding how the partners are selected for the automated purchase orders that we saw. And that'll bring us back to our product configuration. We did kind of go pretty quickly over the top of this, so it would have been very easy to miss. But on a product level, we can come in, let's take a look at these post-it notes, for example. And we're going to be able to set up here on this configuration piece, a purchasing application, we can specify the vendors that these are coming from. And so for the automatic POs, if we've specified it's going to be the vendor at the top, if we had multiple different vendors here, then we would be able to set up the highest ranking one would just be the one that's highest on this form. And then if it's only one vendor, of course, this is going to be who's automatically selected. If you chose instead to work with a call for tenders, then what would be happening is Odoo would draft the ability for you to send out that RFQ to multiple vendors, and then you would get to select who the preferred vendor was based on who had the best price. And we'll stick around and see if there are any remaining questions. Another question from Christine coming in, asking about notices about suggested purchase quantities to maximize the discount. I'm presuming that this is speaking specifically to the capacity that we have to set up on a product itself, the ability to come in here and set up on a product the different price breaks for particular products. If this is the question, what are the different quantities to maximize the discount? Odoo will automatically, if you're ordering a particular quantity that's going to hit above a price break, Odoo is going to automatically pull that and obviously suggest to buy in that purchase unit. If you're talking about what your vendor actually supplies in terms of what your vendor allows for product discounts, that'll just be coming directly from your vendor, not something that would necessarily be generated by Odoo. Another question coming in about managing field work and controlling employees on the street. There is a native in Odoo, and I'm actually going to hop into a different database here for a second. This is kind of a dummy database that has all of our applications. There is a field service application here. And so we're going to be able to come in and we can have that tie into our inventory as well. It's beyond the scope of this webinar for sure, so I won't dive into the functionality of it, but know that for managing those workers in the field and the employees that are out on the street, there is a way to push tasks to them, have them pull inventory from their vans or their vehicles as well, and tie that all into our inventory solution. So Christine, if that is a question you'd like to speak further about, certainly reach out. I'd be happy to discuss in more detail. One other question on support of RFID tagging and tracking, whether it's supported by Odoo. I don't know off the top of my head the specific answer to this question. I lean towards, well, I won't speak to what I lean towards because I'm not absolutely certain, but it is something that most of the team within Odoo we'd be able to find an answer for you quick and easy. So certainly reach out to us, let us, send an email to someone, use my email if you'd like. I can easily follow up with that and get an answer for you quickly after this. All right, it seems like that is all the questions that are coming through for now. So definitely feel free to reach out. Again, the email that was illustrated on this page, let's hop in here, is a direct way you can go ahead and reach me. You can go ahead and reach me at mkn@odoo.com. I'm happy to answer any further questions or discuss about any specific customizations or needs you might have. Other than that, thank you very much for joining us and hope everyone has a great week.